Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show. It is the week of SummerSlam, which means we're all excited. Somebody is trying to kill Roman Reigns. There's rumors that we could be getting Roman Reigns versus Buddy Murphy at SummerSlam, which nobody would have predicted even a week ago. And actually, by the time you hear this, that may have been announced because we don't live in the sort of the mid or late 90s anymore, where SummerSlam matches would be announced well before SummerSlam. Some of them will probably even be revealed on Friday. But what the hell, man? It's 2019. Things are different. If you've never listened before, thank you very much for joining me. Make sure, if you fancy it, you can also check this out on YouTube at youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. Give that a subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at SimonMiller316. Same on Instagram. And all of this is supported by patreon.com/SimonMiller316. Again, because it's the modern day, but something I always try and do. We try and do a couple of shows a week. One which goes live on YouTube on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. BST, but another one later in the week, which is what we're doing now, where we try and get a Patreon guest on and we just have a chat about wrestling because it just works. It's just exciting. It's just fun. And today, all the way from the United States of America, I'm very pleased to say it's my man Joe. Joe, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good, Simon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, dude. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for coming on. You are brand new to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show.
Yes, I am.
Now, we are going to get into the deep and gritty with SummerSlam. I'm going to, again, behind the scenes a little bit for those listening. There's every chance that by the time this goes live, the SummerSlam card has completely changed. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at Vince McMahon for being a crazy human being.
In the next 5 minutes, honestly.
It could be. Like, apparently he rewrote SmackDown again. It's hard to kind of criticize the rewriting of SmackDown at the moment, simply because I personally have enjoyed the last 3 shows. But as we've talked about on here, that will only last so long. Joe, before I do sort of get a brief introduction, I guess, to how you got into wrestling, let's just start there. Yeah, you know, Vince McMahon has rewritten the last 3 SmackDowns, sort of, you know, as the show is about to go live, walks in, rips up the script. What do you think? What's your take on that, I guess? And more importantly, have you enjoyed them? Because I know, especially last night's one, we're recording this on a Wednesday, anybody that cares. I know that last night's one, it divided more people than I was surprised. After I'd seen it and I went online, more people thought, well, there were just more people that thought it was a bit boring. I didn't think it was that boring. I didn't think it was the best show I'd ever seen. But I certainly, I got a little bit of a kick out of it. So what's your take on it? Because it is quite a fascinating... It's a fascinating time where that we can just do that. I mean, it's very WCW. But, dude, how do you see it?
Well, I don't really know because I haven't really been watching the WWE product because I haven't really been drawn in by it. And, that's just how it's been going. And knowing that he's constantly rewriting the show doesn't really want to make me watch it anytime soon, if I'm being honest. I do watch the clips once in a while on YouTube if something great happens, but... I haven't really been watching it too much.
And what is the... I mean, that's a great place to start. So, I mean, I'm going to assume that you got into wrestling through the WWE, I would guess.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So, okay, walk me through it then. I mean, you don't have to go crazy or anything, but walk me through it. How do you get into it? How does it become, obviously, this thing you're quite passionate about? And then what is it that, disconnects you from it? Because there's usually some kind of story in there.
Well, starts out like most of us probably as a kid watching... WWE and WCW in the early 90s. And, that's where I started. And then I don't know why I watched it so much as a kid, but just something about, 2 big guys beating the crap out of each other just made me want to keep watching. And then as for the current stuff, the disconnect probably comes from just too much storylines that I don't really want to listen to every week, I guess.
No, I think that's fair, dude. When did it start happening, though? Like, what was the... Has it been this year? Has it been the last year? Has it been the last... When did you feel that you just didn't... Well, you didn't feel the need to tune into wrestling every week? Well, Raw every week, I should say, or SmackDown.
I'd say it's been about probably the last year and a half that I'd stopped really religiously watching Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah. And can you remember what the catalyst was?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
But there must have been sort of some kind of build-up to it, though. I mean, was it the fact they were pushing the Roman Reigns? Was it that, I don't know, what was happening a year ago? Shane McMahon probably was on the television, I imagine, but he was probably a face then, so we all loved him. I guess more importantly, did you go and get your wrestling fix from anywhere else?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot more New Japan and, of course, AEW stuff when it happens.
And what's... I guess we start there then, really. So AEW obviously is going live. Well, I mean, in 3 weeks we've got All Out, which will be a huge show all within itself. But what do you feel at the moment that AEW offers that WWE doesn't offer? Or at least what do you hope that they do going forward? Because, the big debate now is what does AEW do to actually tap into this WWE fan base, which I know is dwindling and I know is on the way down. But if AEW was able to score, like a 2.4 rating or whatever on their first show, believe you me, TNT would lose their minds. I'm sure they would think it was. Imagine. So, as a wrestling fan who has, I guess it's a twofold question actually. What does WWE need to do to wrangle you back in? And what is AEW or New Japan, whichever one you'd like to focus on doing, that makes you go, you know what, this is the kind of wrestling that I want to enjoy?
Well, as far as WWE goes, I want to say it's not less storylines, but less people just in the ring talking on a microphone. Just something about that always happening takes me out of what I want to see, which is wrestling, which is why I prefer New Japan at the moment, especially right now during the G1, where it's literally just matches and matches and matches.
I mean, we haven't really talked about the G1 much on here, just because, like, some people tweet me and go, Miller, why don't you do an ups and downs for every single G1? I'm like, because I have a life. Yeah, I have to live my life. Yeah. I mean, I do keep up to date, and I certainly go out of my way to watch all the matches that I can. But and I will definitely do it when it comes to the finals. And there's some that I've missed that I want to go back. There's a Moxley one that I missed that I still need to see, but I certainly will.
I'm still a couple days behind myself.
Well, as you would be. I mean, do you wait until you've seen it before you do spoilers, or are you up to date with everything?
Sometimes I can't avoid spoilers because I frequent the Wrestling Observer like some people do, and that's just all over there sometimes. But I'll still go and watch a great match, even if they say how great it was. Yeah,
well, that's what I do as well. I don't really care about spoilers. I'm weird in that sense. I'm like,
it is wrestling, so.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that again, I've seen, let's say, 75% of all the matches people say that you need to see. And I think the really cool thing about the G1 tournament, and again, I don't want New Japan to be WWE or vice versa, but I certainly think there are things that we can take from it. And a tournament like this, I believe every company should have, because it's just so cool to see people like, I mean, I know Okada's smashing it right now, but obviously the other day he lost to Sonata. And what I love about that is, these are not comparable rankings, but I'm just trying to tie it into a topical nature. To me, that is like having Roman Reigns and Buddy Murphy this Sunday, and Buddy Murphy wins.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what it's like. Sonata. It's not a great like for like, but just to try and give an idea for people that don't watch New Japan. And that's so cool to me. It's so cool to me that you can have Okada, who is the IWGP champion, like this absolute superstar, this mammoth of the Japanese wrestling scene. And yet, because he's in a tournament, because we can tell this story that they're wrestling so many matches, he can lose, but it doesn't affect his aura at all, because the sanctity of the G1 is kept so strong that you can win and you can lose. It doesn't matter. It really makes no difference, because you always have the excuse, for lack of a better term, but I was in I've been in this crazy tournament. And I think that's just something that WWE lacks. Like, if we do get Roman Reigns versus Buddy Murphy on Sunday, look, WWE could surprise us. I actually think the last few weeks have been a lot better. But we don't know for sure. We like to hope so, but our guts and our boy who cried wolf voice tell us, well, that's never going to happen. But when you watch the G1, it's awesome. Like when Taichi beat Jon Moxley the other day, I know it was ridiculous and it kind of divided some people. I personally love that stuff. I love stupid stuff in wrestling.
The upsets are always good. Always good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Jim Cornette's worst nightmare. I love the dumb stuff. I just do. I totally see where he's going.
One too.
Oh yeah, it's just funny, right? It's just absolute, and I get a huge kick out of it, and I just think you could take this format and you could so easily apply it. Like, wouldn't it be great? We always have this dead period in the middle of the year. You can either argue that it's between WrestleMania and SummerSlam that sucks, or SummerSlam and the Rumble, whichever one you think is worse. And I don't think you have to book it like New Japan; they go crazy. But if you could just book a 3-week, 4-week tournament, and you absolutely could on WWE, because they have so much
just
time.
Do a month and then finish at a pay-per-view.
I mean, wouldn't that be great? Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? And wouldn't it allow you to showcase other wrestlers? And wouldn't it allow you to take people like Finn Balor and put them in the Kenta position, for example? If you don't know, Kenta's debuted in New Japan and he's doing great. And I won't say he lost today. I won't say who he lost to in case you haven't seen it. But the person he lost to is fine. Like, it's not a problem. Yeah. It's like, yes, I totally understand. I totally get it. So why... Aside from I'm not saying that I want WWE to nick New Japan idea, but it's not a New Japan idea. It's a sports idea.
It's just tournaments are tournaments.
Yeah. What do you think it is that why do you get such a kick out of the G1 Climax for you? Because clearly, you're willing to, as much time as you can, you're willing to invest in this. But in other walks of wrestling life, you're like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting my time on that shit.
Right, exactly. I don't know, something about whenever I'm watching a G1 match, I don't feel like I'm just sitting here watching a screen. I feel like I'm actually being entertained, which is the whole point of investing my time into it.
Yeah.
And especially when it's almost every match is going to be a great match in the G1. I mean, you get your Bad Luck Fale matches, which aren't always great, but they're still better than the worst WWE matches.
Yeah, I think as well. It depends on what you want from your wrestling, right? Because I think Meltzer says it because Meltzer is such a big fan of Japan wrestling.
Absolutely.
He's always like, well, I'm always going to prefer that over WWE because that's my thing. And I know people that don't like New Japan wrestling because they think it's too aggressive and too hard hitting. That makes perfect sense as well, right? Of course it does. But I do think, like I say, how long have you been into New Japan? Like, when did it sort of wrap its arms around you?
About 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, me too, man. Right?
It picked up.
Yeah, and what do you think? Because I didn't stop watching WWE, but that was certainly the time that it got me. And you started to hear names like Ibushi and Okada, and you try to remember them. You're like, I can't because I don't.
All the hype around Kenny and all that stuff is what really brought me into it. Because I wanted to see. Well, everybody talks about how good Kenny Omega is. I got to start watching his matches.
And when you first saw him, did you agree? Because I'm not going to lie. When I first saw Kenny Omega, I obviously didn't see him in the right environment. I can't remember where I saw him, but I was like, yeah, I like this guy, but I don't really get the super love. And then after about 6 months or so, I'm like, oh right,
I think I was the same way because I think the first couple of matches I saw of him were like 6-man or just regular tag matches, and I was like, yeah, he does some cool stuff, but I'm not seeing one of the best in the world out of this guy. And then I watched one of his like actual main event matches, and I was like, oh, this guy does have something that makes him a top guy.
Yeah, no, he does. How do you feel like he's been booked in AEW so far? Because I think I'm the rarity. I love it because they've taken Kenny Omega and they've made sure he doesn't feel like a super top guy. And I think they've done that so when they need to smash him up, they do. You know what I mean? I think they've been really...
That's what I've been telling people, too, when I talk about it. Because they're all like, well, they're not making Kenny look like the biggest guy. And it's like they don't want to just yet. They're trying to save it for when, they might need to do it to get, ratings and everything.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? Like, you don't want... There's no point in him coming in like the hottest wrestler in the world, which he's... I get the counterpoint to that. Oh, we've just smashed his momentum. But what momentum? Is New Japan momentum? Like, AEW is a brand new company. If you like Kenny Omega from his New Japan stuff, you still like him now. Like, he's not gonna... You've already guy. Yeah, you've already bought into him. It's more about showing whoever it is they want to show off to the casual fan. We'll call it, not the right term at all, but we'll go with it. And as and when you're ready to show off Kenny Omega, then he's there. And I think that's more than fine. I don't understand why people. Well, I guess I do because that's what wrestling does.
Everybody's got to complain about something.
yeah, exactly. Where do you see the G1 going then, dude? I mean, I think. As far as I'm aware, the people that are still in it, this is the top of my head, and it's confusing. I think the people still in it are, Okada, Ibushi, Moxley. I think Goto and Ishii and Naito and Jay White are still in it, maybe? I don't know. That's a guess. That's a guess.
I think Jay White is like just possibly out. I'm not quite sure, though. Because like I said, I haven't kept totally up, so I got to look at the actual...
You're a human, dude. You're a human.
It's a little rough.
Yeah, let me spin it. Who would you like to? Who do you think deserves to come out on top? Like, who's going to get the rub? Because I think they've been really smart. Because Sanada got that win over Okada, I get confused with the New Japan booking calendar. But because they've done that, you can absolutely now have a Sanada Okada match at some point. Okada wins, whatever, it'll be great. But then in terms of their big events, again, awful terms, but I'm going to go with it anyway. You can then save. Whatever you want to do here for later on, obviously leading into Wrestle Kingdom. Because, I mean, my gut kind of says to me, it would be great to see Moxley do it, but I don't think they'll put him in that position. I don't think they're going to
push him right away coming in.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, do you think it's Ibushi? Do you think you go with kind of the obvious one?
I have a feeling it seems obvious, but I think it's going to be Ibushi. It might be his year.
And does that mean we go into Wrestle Kingdom next year, Ibushi Okada, top of the card, do you think?
I think you kind of have to. Like, everybody loves Ibushi, so You got to put him against the biggest guy.
Because we're doing 2 nights at the Tokyo Dome as well. I don't know. I still don't 100% know if the second night of the Tokyo Dome takes over from New Year's Dash. I don't know. I get confused by New Japan's crazy events because they just seem to make up sometimes.
Their events mess with my head sometimes.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, so let's say we get to Tokyo Dome. We do Ibushi versus Okada. Ibushi's got all the momentum off the back of winning the G1. Obviously, he signed that big deal earlier in the year, hence why New Japan are getting behind him.
Right.
Do you take the belt off Okada? Because the regeneration or the sort of climb back up to the top from Okada really has only been going on a few months, right? It's not like it's been this huge. It was Dominion, so it's been like, what, 3 months?
Yeah, he's only had the belt back 3 or maybe 4 months at max.
Yeah, so do you know? I mean, I think Okada is untouchable at this point. I think you can do whatever you want with him, and he's so over. And
he could drop the title today, and he'd still be fine. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah. But do you think it's finally time to pull the trigger properly on Ibushi? Because, of course, again, if people don't know, the reason Ibushi has always been this almost cult niche figure is because he would never sign a deal with any wrestling promotion. And then, amazingly, AEW becomes a thing, and he goes, I'm signing with New Japan.
Yeah, that was crazy that he did that. But I think that's what's going to make them put the title on him is the fact that he just signed on with them. And they want to make it look like it's something big.
And then do you think you do Ibushi Moxley? As weird. I know that's a weird thing to throw out, but I'm just trying to think of things that would surprise people.
I could see them having Moxley do something at New Year's Dash after the Wrestle Kingdom show, but I don't know if they, immediately set it up.
I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. And then what does Okada do? This is and this is the other thing. Like, I am not here crapping over WWE. I'm not. I still love it. But much like my man Joe here, when we start talking about this, I completely understand why you would veer off track. Because we can have these conversations all the way to January, and we're only in August.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with WWE. But you can start going, well, if Ibushi wins the G1, he can take on Okada and win the belt. And then you can keep those two apart, maybe till Dominion, have a rematch. In the meantime, you bring in Jon Moxley, or maybe do something with Ishii or Ibushi. I mean, there's so many little things.
That's another person everybody forgets about is Ishii.
Well, and right now, he's this tournament alone, he's always got fire, right?
Yeah.
But this tournament alone, he's now double fire. Like, I know, especially for somebody like me, and again, I've been watching it the same time as you have.
Right.
My big sort of, oh my gosh, I'm hooked was, of course, the Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega thing, just because it allowed me to. Well, it just gave me a base. It gave me a base I understood to then learn about everybody else, and I'm sure that's why they did it. But it's really only been this tournament where I've actually watched Ishii and gone, my God, you're really good. Yeah. And you're really believable every single time.
I don't know how he can hit people and get hit as hard as he does and still walk the next day.
Because he's just, I don't think they do, though, do they? I think that's the secret of New Japan.
That could be it. That's why they do the tag matches for the guys that just worked.
Yeah, everybody is like, how do they survive? And you're like, they don't. That's the thing. They're all walking around backstage like, I'm dead, I'm dying. There's a reason they come out with the ice packs right after the match. Exactly. I mean, it does work because it does make it feel more like a sport when you do that. So yeah, I mean, okay, so we're in agreement that WWE and New Japan need to be their own entities. So
they're completely separate things.
Yeah, so what does AEW need to do? Because I don't want the American New Japan. Like, I really, really don't. And from everything I've read and everything I know about those guys, I don't think they're that stupid to do that at all. In fact, I think they would be adamantly against doing that. But, I'm not smart enough, I guess, when it comes to wrestling to decide what their niche is going to be.
It's going to have to be somewhere directly in the middle, if you think about it, because they need to have the wrestling quality of a New Japan, but then they've also got to kind of do stories similar to how the WWE does it.
Mm. Yeah, that's not the worst. I mean, my devil's advocate point, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but when I hear it, I'm like, okay, does the New Japan style, terrible term, but does the New Japan style translate to a mainstream audience? I think it does. But again, I know some people that think, oh no,
sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I think you got to find that balance. I think if people had watched Ibushi versus Naito from a few weeks ago, whatever the hell it was, when Ibushi tried to break his own head on an apron, I can imagine that would. He does, but I can imagine a lot of people would be turned off by that. I guess it depends. It depends how. Because you can see stuff you don't like in wrestling and not necessarily stop watching. You know, like you can have this kind of weird middle ground. But Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting with AEW. What do you want to happen at All Out in terms of who wins the world title, who takes the number one contender spot? Because to me, I think in terms of what they're
probably
trying
to
to
have to give the title to Jericho.
Yeah, right. That's what I was going to say. Because people go, "Oh, you can't do that." I'm like, I think you have to.
Yeah, you have to. I think that's kind of the reason they got the whole TV deal to begin with.
Yeah, and also he's Chris Jericho.
Yeah, well,
and if you are really, if you're really on the periphery of wrestling and you hear Chris Jericho's won this thing that's not a WWE belt, that may be enough to make you go, "What?" And you may tune in. And look, bless Hangman Page. I think he's got a bright future. But he's not Chris Jericho, right? He's just not. That's truth.
Well, there's not a lot of Chris Jerichos walking around, so yeah, that's what you kind of got to do it.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. There seems to be this backlash. Oh, that would just be them doing what everybody else does. Like, no, I don't think the time isn't right for Hangman Page. In fact, the time isn't right for anybody they could have put against him, unless again you wanted to do Kenny Omega and tell that story, which you could have done. But I think the issue there is I think Cody, Kenny, and the Young Bucks are deliberately trying to maneuver themselves away from those top positions. Do you think that could become a problem? Because obviously the big thing with WCW, which you'll obviously know about, as you mentioned, that's when you came in, was the wrestlers are running the asylum, and
that's always been the big fear with AEW from the way I've seen it, is with them all being in charge, they got to kind of make sure they don't overpush themselves, a la Kevin Nash in the Nitro era.
Do you think they do that though? Because I don't think that Cody.
I don't get that vibe from them. You just you never know how it can turn out.
Yeah, but I don't. But the thing is as well, like, because again, people go, "Oh, Cody Rhodes can't be AEW champion." He can if it's a really good story and it makes sense. Like Cody Rhodes is really good.
Yeah,
it's not like I'm going to insult somebody here. I don't mean to, but let's say that it was. I can't think of anyone. Crap Wrestler X, right?
Yes.
If Crap Wrestler X is a really good booker, but he's a crap wrestler, and then he makes himself win the world title. I'm like, well, no, that sucks. But, it's the other way around here. Cody Rhodes has already made a name for himself and just so happened to have an opportunity that he jumped on. And I don't mind I wouldn't mind Vince McMahon being the WWE champion if it made sense within my story.
Right.
And
it's always got to be. It's got to serve the story. It can't just be.
Yeah.
For the sake of putting the title on somebody.
Exactly, and talking about World Championship Wrestling, that's one of the reasons that it died, because when you've got the big gold belt around the waist of somebody like Vince Russo or David Arquette, and I know it wasn't his fault, and I quite like David Arquette. Did you hear David Arquette on Chris Jericho's podcast the other day?
No, I haven't had the chance to check that out quite.
Yeah, I would say anybody who may feel hard feelings or any resentment towards towards David Arquette, listen to that podcast. He's a real good, switched on, smart wrestling fan, and I think he'll win a lot of people over. But yeah, when you start doing that, you are gonna bookend your company. But again, look, if they could have come up with this amazing reason as to why David Arquette won the title, maybe we wouldn't have minded so much. The problem was it was quite clear they were doing it because they were a dying company, and they thought it would result in good mainstream appeal, which it did not, for the record. It didn't.
For some reason they thought David Arquette was a big name to put the title on. Like he's an all right guy, but I just don't. He's not world champion.
Brad Pitt. If you put Brad Pitt on it, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. Well, not now, but
you got to put an actual blockbuster actor out there. Then
of course you do. Let's go back in the day. I like talking retro stuff. Were you more of a WWE or a WCW guy?
I kind of flip flop back and forth, because what we used to do at my house was obviously change the channels, every commercial break.
Yeah.
And I feel like it would vary from pay-per-view to pay-per-view. Like one WCW pay-per-view would hit it out of the park. I'd be like, oh, I love WCW. But then next month they wouldn't do so good, and WWE would be good. And so I was kind of all over the place.
Because it kind of ties into what's happening with WWE, right? Because Goldberg just came back.
Yeah,
and that seems to that's an interesting point. I don't know. Saudi Arabia's let's just pretend Saudi Arabia didn't happen, which we can't do.
Yeah, I like to pretend it doesn't happen.
Okay, well that's good. Let's do that. But my point being is that because obviously Goldberg is being brought back for people like you, as silly as that sounds, but he is, right? They think they bring in Goldberg. Yeah, they think they bring in Goldberg. And people like your good self will love it, but clearly that wasn't happening. So when you hear Goldberg's coming in, what's your reaction?
At first it's like, he's not going to have great matches, but something about the guy, he just draws me in and makes me want to watch. don't know what it is. It's not like he cuts a really great promo, but he just makes me want to watch him wrestle.
So will you watch SummerSlam for him?
I guess I'm going to have to. I was probably going to watch
dude.
SummerSlam anyway, because I always watch the pay-per-views. I just don't usually watch the weekly TV.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Goldberg Ziggler? Because unless you agree with me, I want Goldberg to absolutely slaughter Dolph Ziggler, and I hope
this is a spear and jackhammer match. That's all I'm hoping.
I want WCW 1998, right? That's what I want. Yep. That's what I want. That's all I want.
That's what they need him to do. Just come in, hit a spear and a jackhammer, and everybody will go home happy.
And that's why I think Dolph Ziggler's a perfect opponent, because they're not going to, even if they said, oh, we're going to have Ziggler beat Goldberg, which they never will do, I don't believe, they're not all of a sudden going to, what do you call it? They're not going to let Goldberg, Ziggler win and then turn him into this huge. They're not also going to make him their top guy, is my point. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who wins. If this was, I'll go with Buddy Murphy again, and I thought he was on a tear. But I'd be like, what are you doing? But it's not. It's Dolph Ziggler. He's 39 years old. He's found his place in WWE, and that's that. So I don't. But I think it's good for a card like SummerSlam. When you're going to go 6 hours, which I think WWE is,
they probably will, because they do it for all the big ones.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just need to pace things up, and it'll probably go 5 minutes, but 3.5 will be bravado and back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you say, spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3, brilliant. Make Goldberg look like a beast. I hope he comes out looking all jacked.
Yep. Not every match needs to be, 20-minute back and forth match. Sometimes you can have, a 3-minute, one guy just destroys the other guy match, and people will love it.
Yeah, I think so. I love it. I think it's great, and I will. As soon as I hear that music play, I'll get pumped and I'll get excited. And sometimes that's all I need to. That's all I need to know about a match, is that someone's going to come in and smash somebody else up, and then we can move on to whatever's next. Is there anything else on the card that has piqued your interest? Because I think Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton's been done quite well.
That one's all right. The curious thing for me would be the Finn Balor Bray Wyatt match, just to see what Bray Wyatt's going to look like in a match setting.
Yeah. What do you think of the Fiend stuff?
Off and on it, like I have been with everything else, I guess. Some of it's been very intriguing, and I want to see more. And then, stuff happens where he randomly attacked Kurt Angle the other night, and I was like, not too much big on that.
I think that the thing for me is, I don't know how I feel about this mandible claw thing. Because I guess I was never big into the mandible claw. When I thought it was an okay finishing move. I never felt like it felt, oh my gosh, the mandible claw, or anything like that. So I'm kind of intrigued as to what the point with that is. But I don't know. I'm quite excited about Bray Wyatt. I think there's something in Bray Wyatt. I don't like calling him the next Undertaker, because that sounds really cliched.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that is I think we have a character and a gimmick here that will be able to transcend the usual nonsense that sometimes we get mad at on TV, and you won't kind of see these lapses on social media or interviews. I think he can do it if he wants. I don't think it ruins it, but I think he'll go out of his way to sort of elevate it to the next level, which is what the Undertaker did, and why we still love it today. And somebody does need that mantle. Like sometimes we're so quick to say, oh, we need a new John Cena, or we need a new Rock, we need a Steve Austin. We do need those things, but you also need the other guys, such as a new Undertaker, such as a new Mr. Perfect.
Need a new Undertaker, because you can't keep trotting, old man Undertaker out there. You just can't.
It's weird that he was on Extreme Rules but not SummerSlam, and Goldberg is the other way around.
It's crazy.
It's very, 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 very odd. But no, I mean, I'm intrigued about that Kofi Kingston Randy Orton match. I think that I love the fact they're tying it into 10 years ago. I just like that. Again, I think it's like when you're watching any kind of series, be it comedy or drama or whatever, the fact that they reward you for being a fan, I always think works. You can still tell that story to people that don't necessarily understand it. So I like that.
Fan service, when done right, is very good thing.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Seth versus Brock. I don't know whether you've been seeing all the stuff with Seth versus Brock.
Seth has been looking not like the smartest guy, and I can't say that's what I want to see out of the guy that's going to beat Brock Lesnar.
Dude, perfect, my friend. That's exactly how I see it. I'm not saying, and people yell at me, I'm not saying that I want Brock Lesnar to win from a I'm sat here booking the territory point of view.
Right.
I'm saying that if I'm watching the story, why the flib do I want this annoying, weak, idiot dude to beat this man who's an absolute monster?
Yeah. Brock's out there throwing people around like children, and Seth's on one leg and everything. Gonna go beat him up? I don't think so. It wasn't a very smart thing.
So what do we do then? Because I think that puts us in a precarious position. You don't want to piss off the fans by keeping it on Brock Lesnar, but also I'm a fan. I'll tell you right now, you'll piss off me a little bit if Seth Rollins wins. If your plan was to have Seth Rollins win that title back at SummerSlam, you went about it the wrong way.
Yeah,
because I don't care about it anymore.
Yeah, if Seth was supposed to be taking it, they definitely shouldn't have had him come off looking as weak as he had.
No, absolutely not.
Because it doesn't make him a believable challenger to the title, which is kind of not a smart idea.
Yeah, it looks like, I understand why they're having the fight, because Seth Rollins won that Battle Royal or whatever the hell it was. But now, especially because they injured him so much, and I know we sound like nerds when we start talking about this, but we are nerds, so deal with it. But because the thing is, because he is injured so much, if I'm meant to believe what I'm seeing, how is he going to beat Brock? Like, realistic, unless Paul Heyman screws over Lesnar, and do not do that, WWE. I don't want to see that either. But unless they does that, I don't understand what story I'm going to be able to buy into that doesn't make me go, what? Because he's a wounded man, right?
Yeah,
he's got
he's practically broken in half.
Yeah, and and don't forget as well, if you go back to Mania, the only way he beat Brock there is by kicking him in the balls.
Yeah,
and that was fine because it was
because you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and it was a cool callback, right? It was a cool callback, but it still stands to reason that so far Seth Rollins' record against Brock Lesnar is not great, and now we've got a wounded man going into it. I find it really, really interesting, and I do hope that there is some twist in this tale that I haven't seen, because it does kind of feel to me like they backed themselves into the corner a little bit. Yeah,
they've kind of not set themselves up for a good outcome either way.
No,
because if Brock wins, then great, more Brock Lesnar as champ, and then if Seth wins, then you got a guy who's barely able to walk around with your main title.
Don't care. And also, like, to be fair, I don't know who, let's say either one wins, I don't know what their next feud is. I'm worried that Baron Corbin's been kept up TV so long that they're going to give it to Seth and just go back into that because they don't have any other plans. I hope I'm wrong. I've actually quite enjoyed not seeing Baron Corbin on TV recently. Not that I'm even that down on Baron Corbin. I just think it's always good to balance your stars
everybody in moderation. That's
exactly.
That's what's been the problem with the whole Shane McMahon thing. Is he's been all over the TV.
Yeah, I know. I tell everybody that. I don't hate Shane McMahon because he's hate Shane McMahon. I don't like Shane McMahon because it's just too much. Like you said, I love ice cream, but I could probably eat ice cream all the time, to be fair, actually. But my point being is that eventually...
but you wouldn't enjoy it as much as if you ate it all the time.
Exactly, because it becomes the norm and you want it to feel special, which is why a big criticism from this week is that Braun Strowman was on this show. I was like, good. If you've got no plans for him and he is this giant man, keep him off the show. Like, I don't need to see him, and then he'll feel better when he does come back.
I'd much rather not see a guy if you don't have anything for him than for him just to be there to be there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it all depends how you book your product. But that's the way that WWE does it. And I don't think that we ever need to... Well, we just don't. We just don't need to. We just don't need to do that. And some people think, oh, we're burying him. So I just don't think we are. Like,
everybody is so quick to jump to somebody's getting buried. That's all you hear every time somebody loses one match.
Well, that kind of opens up this thing about Buddy Murphy, who I keep going back to. I just can't believe he's been given such a rub from nowhere. Did you hear about what happened on SmackDown with the whole segment between those two?
No, I did not.
Right, so obviously someone's trying to kill Roman Reigns, which, by the way, is actually oddly fun. I mean, I'm not saying that it's good, but I'm saying I'm loving the hell out of it. So,
it's wacky already.
Yeah. So anyway, it turns out that Buddy Murphy saw who did it. Roman Reigns goes to confront him. Buddy Murphy's a bit of a dick. Roman Reigns beats him up. And you can't, again, my point being is that you have 50% of people saying, it's not this much, but the internet always makes it seem this way. But you have this 50% of people saying, oh, it's great that Buddy Murphy was involved in the biggest storyline in WWE, which he was. He has been put in, you can go back to that old Jim Ross kind of perspective of, well, we just put him against a big guy, therefore he gets a rub. You can argue it and you can debate it because, of course, the other way is, yeah, sure, he did do that, but Roman Reigns absolutely kicked his ass, which he also did. How do you see it, though, man? Because to me, I do agree with both, but deep down, I'm like, well, but actually, you know what? it did make Buddy Murphy feel like a bigger deal to me, because he stood up to Roman Reigns. They had a bit of a spat on social media. It all depends what happens in the match, right? If they do have a match and he gets absolutely killed, I'd be like,
it would depend on how competitive the match ends up being, you know.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think the thing for me really is, because the curtain of wrestling has been pulled apart to such a degree, I just like seeing new people. Do you know what I mean? In storylines, no matter what that guise is of. So seeing someone like Buddy Murphy, who I have enjoyed for the last couple of months, or last year, I guess, actually.
He was tearing it up on 205 Live.
Yeah, exactly. And I never watched 205 Live religiously, but I would always catch clips. And it's like, just being able to see him interact with Roman Reigns, who I see all the time, I'm like, yeah, great. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is something therapeutic about that. And it just makes the product feel fresh, which, again, actually, something I should ask you, because I'll be intrigued. Obviously, when SmackDown goes to Fox at the end of the year, the news is apparently they have new cameras. They're going to shoot it a bit more cinematic, a bit much like sports. Is that enough to make you start watching again, dude? It moving to Fox? I mean, you have got a better idea of that than me, because it's in America.
The movement to Fox, I'm intrigued to see what they do differently. So I'll definitely start watching again. But if it's still just the same, same old stuff, just different angles, then I'm not going to be too cool about it.
I just think it's so. I don't want to put it on too much. I just think it's really important that the move to Fox does open up the door for some people to go, oh, wow, they are doing something different. Because that's the time to do it. You can change the logo. You can change pretty much everything. And you can make it feel different to Raw. And even if that only gets people to come back to watch SmackDown, I think that's okay. I think that's a good start as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they should make SmackDown feel like a completely different show from Raw, because it's not. They're not the same show. Theoretically.
No, nor should they be. Like, why would they be? They got different names, they're on different days. Just because they carry the WWE brand doesn't mean, that's like saying you watch an NFL game, it should be the same. No, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But on the side of SmackDown as well, it was up from last week in terms of viewership. It did, I think it was a 2.08, and last week they were below 2 million. So at least that's going in the right way. And Raw did okay as well. So there is some love going into SummerSlam this weekend, which I think is important. And hopefully, when we get out the other side of SummerSlam, we can keep this up. And then I think, good dudes like yourself maybe would be enticed to go back in. Like, if you do hear the people saying, oh, wow, WWE's quite good, and this is good, that's good. Again, I think that it's never off the table is what I mean. Like, I think most people want WWE to be good. Yeah,
it's not that I don't want to watch WWE. I love wrestling. I want more wrestling. It's just I don't want to watch what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Do you watch NXT at all?
Yes, I watch NXT every week.
Yeah, see, it's amazing, isn't it? Like, and people
crazy.
People can't even call that a coincidence anymore, because it's the same for everybody.
Yeah,
everybody. Yeah, but because it's weird. Like, NXT, I know I'm talking to the converted here, and that includes everybody listening too. But NXT started as the developmental brand, and yet now it's just the third brand, which I'll go with hardcore fans, but again, I don't think that's necessarily true either. The fact that they love, because it gives them the kind of... It's almost like WWE has evolved.
Yes.
Like, everybody says, oh, WWE has evolved, but it actually did, but they did it in NXT instead.
They did it in the wrong place, apparently. That's what happened.
Yeah. Isn't that bizarre? Like, I just find that absolutely crazy, because I don't know how that happened. Of course I know how it happened. It's because Triple H is in charge of that, and he brought his own ideas, and he was a guy that lived through the most successful period in wrestling and also kept his eye on modern day wrestling, and he pushed those two things together to create a new product that was the next step in what... I mean, I don't know how well it would do if it was, translated to the masses. I have no idea, because I've never seen it.
If they put that on TV, I'm curious to see what the mainstream audience thinks of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what it would do. I'd like to think that it would do well, but at this kind of stage, I don't really know what people want from their wrestling either. I mean, I don't even know if I know what I want from my wrestling. It's that boring. If someone came up to me and said, Simon, book wrestling, I would just be like, well, I don't know. Just like, give me good storylines and good characters. Be like, well, what does that mean?
Exactly.
What is that? Yeah.
Booking wrestling is easy when you're just saying you can do it. But once you have to do it, then it becomes a problem.
Absolutely. So, I don't know what... they need. I know obviously what I don't like when I see it, but necessarily going the other way. But I do think it's an exciting time. I mean, again, you've got SummerSlam this Sunday, then we head into the end of the month and we've got All Out, and before long it'll be January, so we'll have Wrestle Kingdom, and then we'll be back to WrestleMania again. Obviously, we'll have AEW TV starting, and we'll have SmackDown on Fox, like we've just talked about, and that feels cool to me. Like, that feels like there's a lot going on, and also, maybe NXT does move to FS1. I don't really know the benefit of that, other than being able to say, oh, we've got some competition against AEW.
Yeah, I think that would be the only reason they would do it, is just that they can, because it's, Vince does like to do that from time to time, just stuff he can do.
Yeah, but I guess let's take your good self, right? So you're going to watch AEW on Wednesday nights, especially the first few, to see if you like what they're doing. So let's say, and I don't know what WWE is going to do, but if they take NXT off the network, which I have to guess they're going to do if they want to try and get some people to actually watch it live, because otherwise you could watch both.
Yeah,
you could watch AEW and then switch back. But wouldn't that piss you off as a WWE fan if all of a sudden that thing you're used to for the last 3 years, they then said, oh, by the way, we've moved it just because we're trying to take a shot at somebody else? I don't think that repays you for your loyalty,
Joe. I would not be a very happy camper if suddenly I have to do something completely different every Wednesday to watch NXT. Yeah. When I've been watching it every week since years ago at this point.
Because that's the thing, because by doing that, they are taking your fandom for granted, because they're thinking you are going to watch regardless. And look, I'm not going to lie, you probably will watch it when it eventually gets on the network, but that's not the point. The point is that is a staple of the WWE network. Most people say they watch. I think that NXT does some of the best figures on the. We don't see the viewing polls, but that's always what the rumor has been.
I would think NXT is only behind like the pay-per-views in viewership.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the specials, I imagine, do well for like a week or so, but then it's NXT that creeps back up. And yeah, I just think that's a dangerous game to play, because... But let's go the other way. Let's say that we do NXT on a Wednesday, but you can still stream it live on Wednesday nights. And what are we doing? What's the point?
Yeah, if you can still stream it and it's live on TV, then I don't even know what the point of having it on TV would be.
I know. I don't understand.
There's a tough situation to be in, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting end of the year for all these reasons and more. I mean, again, and how anybody can say this isn't competition, I don't know. I don't think they're going to, AEW or New Japan are never going to smash WWE in terms. Well, look, they may smash in terms of revenues on their own right, but I don't think they're ever going to smash WWE in terms of revenue to the point that WWE has to worry. And yet, here we are feuding over wrestlers and time slots and who knows what else, and we just are. We're in a wrestling. I mean, I think war probably has too much of a negative connotation. I think it's really fun and exciting. But
it's more of like a wrestling renaissance, if you will.
Yeah. In fact, we should talk about that actually. Given that we mentioned Jon Moxley earlier, obviously, you switched off from WWE and you see him walk into AEW and New Japan. What's your initial thoughts about that? Because he surprised many people. I don't know how familiar with him you were before. I mean, I wasn't familiar with him at all before WWE, but
yeah,
were you a bit like...
I wasn't aware of him pre-WWE, and then watching him after WWE, it's like a completely different guy almost.
Yeah.
Just the way... It's like he took like the stuff he was doing and then changed it into a more hard-hitting version, and then is actually cutting promos of what he actually wants to say. And it makes him just a more believable character, I guess.
Oh, I think so. But did you roll your eyes a bit? Were you a bit like, oh, here comes the WWE guy that, I'm a bit bored with and don't want to see. And then obviously he wins you over.
Nah, I don't. When people leave, I don't immediately go, oh, here comes this guy. I'm more of a, let's see what they do with this guy first before I make a split judgment on him.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how you should be, because I do think even if you don't like, well, this is the common argument, isn't it? Even if you don't like WWE right now, you can't say their roster isn't amazing. But, their roster is incredible.
Very deep and very talented.
Absolutely. And, and obviously the craziest thing about trying to be a wrestler in 2019 is you got to be well good at wrestling. That was never the point back in the day. You could get away with personality, charisma, promos. You still need those things today. And you don't have to be the best wrestler in the world, but you do need to be able to hold it with these guys that just keep raising the bar. And as some people say, maybe they've raised the bar too much, and we'll realize that trying to kill each other is not.
Yeah, you could certainly say that about some of the New Japan guys. They have kind of raised the bar to dangerous levels.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I think I don't know. Like I said, I've tried to show people, because everybody says if you're going to show someone that's never watched a wrestling match before, show them Osprey versus Ricochet, which is probably a good shout, or show them some Lucha Libre. But if they're going to keep that show on and then see what comes next, they may be like, what are these two doing to
Well, if you watch any recent Will Osprey matches, you might not, because the guy's out there killing himself practically every match.
I know, man.
Right? Like, it's insane.
It's a shame as well, because did you see the Zack Sabre Jr. match in the G1?
Yes, yeah.
And wasn't it great how they just did mat wrestling?
Yeah,
and sort of more technical
almost like
wrestling.
mat wrestling works.
I know, and I understand you can't do it every time because it's not what the fans want, but maybe there is a way, and who am I to, sit here and criticize Will Ospreay? I just mean in general, it would be nice if maybe he could do a bit more of that so that, he doesn't, I don't want Will Ospreay to get hurt. Sometimes I worry about Will Ospreay.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about the G1, though, I guess, is you're not always going to go out and have the same match. So sometimes, you can have your crazy kill yourself match against like Ibushi or like Naito, but then you can have, a slow match against Zack Sabre where you're not hurt yourself.
And that, again, that ties into another criticism people have of WWE, that they all follow a very similar template to each other, which they arguably do. So, I do. Again, that's why when Jon Moxley gets his feet tied up to Muto's feet and he can't get back in the ring, I'm all right with it. Yeah. I'm all right with it. It makes me laugh. It makes me chuckle. Does it make Jon Moxley look a bit like a nerd? Yeah, but who cares, man? That's
what happens. He's not used to seeing what Yano can do, so he saw what happens when you underestimate Yano.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's wonderful. I really, really do. I like it. I like it a lot, and I enjoy what New Japan does, and I think they're really clever with it. And I think this G1 especially, I imagine a lot of people, thanks to the growth of New Japan World, are watching it for the first time, and I think they'll be hooked. Yeah, and I think that's good. So too. Yeah, I think that's good. Do you have any sort of crazy predictions for SummerSlam, or do you think it's going to be mostly not a by the numbers show?
No.
But, I mean, do you think they've got any huge angles up their sleeve, I guess? Or do you think we're just coming out the other end as we would do after WrestleMania or something like
that? Yeah, I think it's just going to be, people that are going to win are going to win. I don't think anything like surprising is going to happen, though they probably should have something surprising happen.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, if they want to be real crazy, they could have Riddle come out and interrupt the Goldberg match.
Yes, they could, my
friend. I don't see that happening.
Matt Riddle, I tell you, I don't agree with him, but boy, do I love his honesty.
Yeah.
I really, really do love his honesty. That guy is crazy. It really is crazy.
He's a different breed of cat. Like that.
I don't know how he's going to survive. I don't mean that in a bad way, but knowing how WWE is, how does he survive? He's doing everything they don't like.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer he's gonna be staying there if he keeps it up.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong, and it comes back to bite me in the ass. But when I see that, and I just know how WWE been in the past, I'm like, all right, let's see.
Maybe he's doing it because he knows they like him enough that he can get away with it.
Yeah, maybe he knows they just don't care. We don't know. We don't know. Actually, one thing I should ask you before we do wrap up, my friend, is obviously you're a big AEW fan. You're a big New Japan fan. How do you feel about the fact they obviously can't seem to get a relationship going? Because it doesn't seem like the New Japan Ring of Honor relationship is going to last much longer. They seem to have fallen out completely.
Yeah, I don't know. I just find it weird that for whatever reason, I think New Japan just wants to do their own thing over here and everywhere else, I guess. And they don't really want to have to ride anybody else's coattails to get somewhere. So they just are backing off with everybody.
Do you think they benefit from working for each other? Like, do you think having some kind of like symbiotic relationship with Kenny going over there and Ibushi coming back is gonna? Do you think it boosts both promotions up, or does it not really do much anyway?
I think it would boost them together to an extent. Like, but it's only so much that AEW can do for New Japan, whereas the other way around, New Japan can probably do a lot more for AEW.
Yeah, I think so. I just hope they both do well. I don't think they're not going to, but
yeah.
Obviously we've got Raw Quest going on over here in August, which I can actually announce now. I think that what culture we're going to cover. I think we've got some cool interviews, so we can look forward to that. But I think that is a big deal, and I think if that does do well, the expansion continues, and you know, and that's what they need to do. They need to be able to be getting eyes in front of the product here, there, and everywhere.
Right. More people watching good wrestling can only benefit everybody else.
Absolutely. Where are you based, man? Specifically in America. Do you get any New Japan shows coming your way?
There was the one. I don't remember what their schedule is like right now, but they did the G1 Supercard. I'm in the Northeast, so I'm like right where stuff can go down. Like I'm trying currently to get to that Boston AEW show, but
oh man,
we're gonna see.
That'd be good though, man. Right? It'd be pretty cool because obviously, they've announced their whole. That'd be awesome, dude.
Yeah,
and you'd be part of history in many ways. People laugh when I say that. It's true.
Yeah, people
don't be part of history.
Yeah, people don't look at it that way though for some reason. Like the people that are going to that first televised show are going to be the first crowd on AEW TV. Like that's crazy.
Exactly. I think it's cool. I think it's really, really exciting. And even let's say even if it all goes completely wrong, all right, we had fun while it lasted, right?
Right.
And that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
It gave people something to watch for a little bit.
And that's all we need sometimes. And we can maybe be upset with what happened, but onwards we still trot. And on that very positive note, we will wrap things up. Joe, pleasure talking to you, my friend. I really enjoyed that. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, not at all, dude. And again, make sure if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, do it now. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch it there, along with a bunch of other random content. Again, Twitter and Instagram at SimonMiller316. All of this is supported by patreon.com/SimonMiller316. You can come on the podcast, as Joe has done, and we'll just talk random crap for around about an hour. But my word, is it just a good old-fashioned time. Not going to lie, Joe, when I first started doing this, a lot of people would send me messages going, why are you getting random people on to talk wrestling? I'm like, this is why.
Yep.
This is why. Because it's just really, really fun. And who knows why.
You never know what people can say. That's what.
Yeah. No, exactly, man. Exactly. You get different opinions and different ideas. And yeah, it just puts a smile on my face. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Joe, enjoy SummerSlam if you do watch it. And I'm sure you will. And everybody else enjoy. Thanks, man. Everybody else enjoy SummerSlam too. Obviously, we'll be upping those down for SummerSlam on Monday. And we didn't even talk NXT TakeOver because I forgot for the second time this week that it's even happening because that's how much there's going on. But let's face, what's the point? It's going to be good. The end. That's it. That's it. That's the whole story. That's all you need to know. It's going to be really, really good, and it will have all the best matches of the night. The end. Dude, Joe, thanks so much. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.